everybody, this is Ina May Bond from lightcycleastrology.com, and today we are getting into some of the astrology that is kicking off the month of October 2022. And let's dive right in. Now, this isn't going to be a huge, big, deep dive into the month where I go transit by transit, because I want to go through the month and hit some of the big ones with their own videos, because I think that that's just easier to digest all of the archetypal energies that come through as they hit. Now, one thing that just happened, though, is you can see we've just had a new moon in the sign of Libra as of last Sunday, and then last Thursday we had the sun enter Libra, and pretty soon we're going to have Venus enter Libra, and this is really going to be a big improvement for Venusian things. So I'm really excited to see the month ahead coming up. Now, let's just talk a moment about Libra, because this is one of those four cardinal signs where we get the ingress of a new season. So cardinal signs that represent these big pivots or hinge moments where we sort of turn from one place to a future location. I sort of sometimes think of cardinal signs as like you're driving down a road that's really straight for like a long time, maybe somewhere in the Midwest, and all of a sudden you get that big, 90-degree turn, and now you're just heading in a totally different direction. That's a little bit like the energy of a cardinal sign. So the cardinal signs are going to be Libra, Capricorn, Aries, and Cancer. These are the four seasonal shifts where we change from one season to the next. So again, Libra is going to have that feeling like we're really changing from one thing to the next. Not only that, but we've just had the new moon in Libra coincide with the very early ingress of the sun into that cardinal seasonal shift. So the new moon also has a lot of that similar energy where it feels like the new seed that is beginning to sprout or grow into a new lunation cycle. Not only that, but we also have Libra is the sign that kicks off the dark half of the year, where there is going to be more nighttime than daylight during the next 6 months until the sun gets back around to the vernal equinox at the beginning of Aries season. So we have two halves of the year. We have the time of year where there is more light, and we have a light dominant theme, and we have the dark half of the year, which is the dark dominant theme of fall and winter time. So in ancient astrology, that was really what the zodiac represented, was this alternation between light and dark. So the darkness could be representative of not only a transition from something coming before, and then there's this big transition into like another part of our lives that's coming up, but it was also a shift, I think, towards the inner realms, because darkness has that connotation of like the sleeping bear or the hibernating bear, where the summertime and the springtime, it's really a time where things are made out in the world, things are growing out in the world, and it's very externalized. Whereas the fall and winter time are more of those internal landscapes that things start to grow on. If you think about it, even in the winter time, we tend to think of nature sort of going through that dying off phase. But as the leaves fall, right, they hit the ground and they decompose. And that decomposition, it's full of activity, but it's more on those mystical, dark inner landscapes. Likewise, we've had a big moment where there is quite the pivot from one part of the year to into a new season, a new part of the year, and it happened right as the new moon was coming along. So that is a really big moment where it should start to feel like we're really starting to turn a corner into something new. But that something new could be a little more internalized feeling. What is also interesting is that take a look at Venus. Venus is the ruler of the sign of Libra and the sign of Taurus. So when Venus is in Taurus, she is said to be in her feminine or nighttime archetype. When she is in Libra, she is said to be in her masculine or daytime archetype. So that is very interesting. And I'll tell you why, is because as the month progresses, if I take us forward just a couple of days now to September the 29th, look how Venus pops into Libra. And whenever a planet is coming into their own domicile, it's as if they have their own nature to enact their significations. Venus did not like to be in the sign of Virgo. It's a difficult place for her. Virgo is a sign where It's about the intellectual, rational, mercurial types of energies. And Venus is a very sensual sign. So it's a little bit like water and oil clashing together or not mixing so well. The sensual likes to be sensual, it likes to go from the heart. Mercury likes to be intellectual and up in the head. Venus doesn't really feel very comfortable in the sign of Virgo, and she's said to be depressed in ancient astrology. So Venusian things can be even depressed, even. Venusian things are always like relationships or that sense of harmony and bringing things together. That finer, refined quality, especially in Libra, where you're looking at the aesthetics or the quality or the artistic value of something. You're going for some kind of cohesive, beautiful resonance that just sort of brings things together and is the opposite of the cold, dog eat dog world. That sort of represents Venus as a whole, especially in the sign of Libra, a sign where the sun was said to be depressed. So it's really interesting. In the previous month, Venus was in a sign where she was depressed, and the sun has now moved into a place where he is said to be depressed. And then Venus gets a little bit better of a condition going on as she transitions by September the 29th, where she is no longer in that depressed mode. She is in her own temple and feeling a whole lot better now. But she is co-present with the sun, who is said to be depressed. So let's talk about that. Why is the sun depressed in the sign of Libra? Well, it's because, again, we go back to the beginning of the dark half of the year, where darkness takes over the light half of the year. And so the sun is a planet of light. And when it moves into a place where there's more nighttime and more wintry, cold energy, that's antithetical to the sun's nature or power. So the ancient astrologers looked at the sun in Libra as becoming depressed because it is overtaken by that dark, cold winter. Venus has a story going through the whole month or the first 3 weeks of October here. Watch Venus chase the sun. You can see that as Venus and the sun progress through October, Venus gets slowly and more slowly closer to the sun. And so that is a really big part of the symbolic story of the month. Here comes Mercury, but right around October the 22nd, we've got Venus and the sun at the very last degree of Libra. And then watch this, they both pop into the sign of Scorpio, and there's a sign change. That's having a lot to do with the symbolic meaning of the month. The way that I am wrapping my head around the symbolic meaning of that chase that Venus gives to the sun through the sign of Libra is that Venus is at home, so she can enact her own significations. She can be beautiful. She can be aesthetic, artistic. She can bring things together and be very sociable and have that social acumen. And the sun is feeling less self-centered, less about its own central purpose or authority. It's sort of giving way to what is happening around it, thinking about other people. Are they comfortable? Is there harmony? And that is being intensified as Venus gets closer and closer to the sun. And then eventually Venus will pass over the face of the sun as a sign change into the sign of Scorpio. There should be this sense in which Venus and the sun get to be more and more concerned with social environments, having some kind of harmony, things being brought together. That should intensify as the month goes on. It could be a month where you begin to plan for those holiday festivities. Maybe you're starting to do your Christmas shopping. You're planning your trips to, go see the family on Thanksgiving. You're, doing children's stuff with the neighborhood or planning Halloween types of things. So we're sort of entering this natural time of year where not only are we going inward because the sun is entering a dark half of the year, but it's a sign of Libra. So the sun naturally starts thinking about other people way more than it normally does. And here comes Venus bringing everything beautiful and balanced and just. So you get this combination where there is a lot more social elegance that comes in at this time. So that is really the story for the month in general, as far as Venus and the sun. There are some other things that are happening at the moment. If I just go back to Today, which I'm recording this on September the 27th. But one thing that I've been noticing a lot is we've been having this opposition between Venus, who is conjoining Mercury at the moment, make an opposition over here back to Neptune in the sign of Pisces. I don't know about you, but I've definitely been feeling this otherworldly pull to some degree. I've been having a harder time resisting that chocolate, that Halloween chocolate that is just like dominating every place I go right now, and ice cream and things like this. So there's definitely kind of an indulgence, and there is also this confusion that comes in when Mercury begins to make contact with Neptune. Even though Mercury technically is in a really good place, he's still going retrograde. So there's this sense that there is still the beginning of a new mercurial cycle, and he's making contact with a planet that can sometimes make things elusive and hard to understand. So another thing that I've noticed is that you might have miscommunications with people that you're in relationship with or have been in relationship with right now at this moment. And sometimes there can be a tension or maybe even a clever dialogue or argument that just makes things convoluted or something to that effect. The other thing that we're also getting right now is we're getting this trine, or still in this trine rather, from Saturn over to Mars. And this is also a really interesting moment because Saturn, among being that classical planet of structure or sternness or hard work or what have you, Saturn in ancient astrology had a key word that was sort of like feigned appearance. It had this quality of sometimes being a pretender. So I think there could be a theme sometimes where Mars in Gemini, it's all about having this energy that it wants to take action about certain ideas. And there's this sort of like flexible, you know, athletic quality to Mars in Gemini, where you have this incredible dexterity to pivot and turn and do something, or have all of these ideas, many irons in the fire that you're working on all at once. And there's this incredible flexibility. And Mars can be a little bit devious as well in Gemini. And when Saturn comes along and makes contact to Mars, yeah, this can be just the perseverance to take some idea and keep working on it until you persevere with that idea. But there also can be a fake it until you make it kind of feigned appearance that Saturn can create when making contact to any planet. I've noticed that there is sometimes a little bit of especially with Neptune opposed Mercury right now, there's a little bit of things have this very elusive quality to it, and Saturn plays a role in that as well, where there's a little bit of like we might have to do something, but are we faking it until we make it? Is there something that some genuineness that is not quite fully there and on the surface? I think that's a subtle energy that we're getting right now, especially with Neptune and Mercury as well. Eventually we get to the first quarter moon here. This is a moon in Capricorn. First quarter moons, they're always about hitting the ground running, and now you are getting a sense of what the new lunation cycle is impelling, within you. And there's a sense of like we might have to face some adversity or build something, some kind of structure that we're really have a fire under us to start building at the moment. But it meets this contact with Pluto right as that happens. So there could be some deep intensity with that. The other thing that is also very interesting is that we're going through this trine from Mercury over to Pluto. So as the moon comes close, this could be a moment of crisis that has some pretty powerful intensity with it. You can see that Mercury now has actually stationed and is turning direct. It is making this contact with Pluto as the moon comes through by October the 3rd. One thing that I've noticed, because we've sort of been in this Mercury-Pluto energy for a few days already this week, is that I keep pulling these very dark druid animal oracle cards. So every morning I lay out a spread, and I've been really getting into these cards, but they have a few really dark, like the crow or the raven, or I keep getting these dark cards, especially the bird ones, like the owl. And that's really fascinating to me because I'm mixing these two systems of divination, this animal tarot deck with the astrology, and they're really matching up because Mercury was, remember, the psychopomp. He was the god that could travel, from the upper world down into Hades, and he could come back again and deliver messages. Mercury has this interesting contact with Pluto. Again, we've got the sun entering a sign that represents going into the dominance of darkness for 6 months. We've got Mercury, a god that was a psychopomp that could travel between worlds. And we've got Pluto, who sort of represents the underworld or the dead, the god of the riches of the Hades realm. And that really guttural, deep, primal instinct in us. So you have all of these themes sort of popping out right now. And I think that's why I've been drawing some of these darker bird, druid, animal oracle cards. I've noticed that these themes are coalescing, but this is going to become alleviated as we keep going a few more days into the beginning of October here. You can see that Mercury starts to make the exact perfection to Pluto around October the 7th, which is a Friday. And then after that, Mercury does a sign change into Libra about October the 11th. This is getting to be just after the full moon. So this is really some of the things that are happening on my radar for the first week and a half of October. And so I'm going to come back through and do some videos on just individual transits because I think that that is really helpful as we're starting to fill them at the moment. Please leave your comments in the comment section below. How are these transits grabbing you? How are you feeling them? I'd love to hear from you what that is. So take care, everybody. Thanks for watching. I'll be back soon. Please like, share, and subscribe. That really helps the channel grow, and I really appreciate that. All right, take care, everybody. See you later. Bye.